Ladies and gentlemen, happy Wednesday, the 14th of July. It is proclamation news and Gavin's. So I want to say I'm overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with building my channel. Overwhelmed with building our subscribers. I'm overwhelmed with the listeners, the occupants that come by and listen to the show daily. Some of my friends come through methodically supporting the show. I really appreciate it. Like I come through methodically producing qualitative, good news, broadsheet, broadcast. Sometimes I've got to chuck in a few tabloids, depending on how I feel. Anyway, I like to exfoliate my expressions of the contrast which is coming ahead. I might emphasise my habilitations. I hope you don't mind, because comparing and contrasting, having your own defect of what's happening on the horizon is very, very it's a thoughtful process. It is a thoughtful process because we can all have opinions. We can all give our opinions, can't we, on the local news. If you don't give your methodical approach, people are not going to want to listen. People are not going to want to tune in. They're not going to be subjugated to want to oblige and subscribe. On Proclamation News and Gavin's on YouTube and on Proclamation News and Gavin's on Castbox. I've been going for over 3 years. So people say, what's proclamation about? Proclamation, declaration. We've got news and Gavin's on gathering all news together. I'm emphasising my habilitations. So it makes sense, and proclamation news and Gavin's makes sense. Proclamation, like I said, is a declaration. The declaration is news. And the Gavin's is people who are actually coming together and me hurdling all the news into one constituent. It's better than reading because you're getting my defect, my input, my political analyst skills. You get me emphasising, get me criticising other MPs. I'm not trying to criticise them, but if I see something I don't agree with, I will outline it. Everyone's got their own opinion in politics. It depends which side of the political spectrum you follow. Anyway, it's P&G. We are proudly sponsored by PSS Alarms. I don't get money generated from their company. I just do it out of the kind of my heart because the person saved my life that runs the company at the time. I was in a bit of a bad shell. It's always in a come from good shell. It's just finding my level playing field, which I've finally found. Anyway, it's very ethical and pragmatic work carried out. All works covered, including central station monitor provided. All work done according to insurance requirements. This is a friend of mine's company. He's carried out works in Harry Kane's stepmother's house in Hertfordshire, Potters Bar. He's carried out etiquette works in Essex. I mean, Harry Kane, it rings bells, doesn't it? England manager. But he's working just next door. I priced up a job for him. Harry Kane's stepmother's in Hertfordshire, Potters Bar. He's carried out etiquette works in Essex, such as Casbah restaurant. It's changed over names some in time. Don't know the actual name at the moment. And many more big business. Get a pen ready because you need to take the number down in a minute. Installation and maintenance of intruder alarms, fire alarms, CCTV, all work done and guaranteed, certified to SSAIB standards. 24-hour call-out service. Can provide CCTV for pubs, clubs, restaurants, or new business setup. Secure your business. Mention Professor Johnson for extra discount. Secure your home, secure your business. Your safety and priority in your business are paramount. So think safety, think first. Secure your equity. Maybe you're running, I don't know, something that needs to keep it secure, like an army barracks, perhaps. Just saying, for instance, and the CCTV has a fault, or the intruder alarm has a fault. People are getting through the intruder alarm. It's not going off. There's a defect. I'm pretty sure if you give him 24 hours notice, even if it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, he'll be out there to fix the job. He doesn't drink, doesn't take narcotic, he doesn't smoke. He will be there without a shadow of a doubt, providing he's fit and well and his family are well. 07908, 07908, get a pen ready. 07908 216 142. 07908 216 142. 07908 216 142. Ask to speak to Tariq Khan. Mention Professor Johnson, like I said, for an extra discount. Very, very important. Like I say, if you're looking at changing your life goals, your life gains, your aspirations, you want to better your well-being, you want to better your thinking mentality to positive mental attitude, then I've highly advised look at relaxuk.com. Relaxuk.com. Relax UK Limited, health, travel and wellness products since 1997. UK relaxation shops send various ranges of products from relaxation, travel, well-being, biofeedback, sleeping, and natural products. If you're not having sufficient sleep, there's plenty of products there to help you with your methodical sleep that you need. You need sleep if you're doing education. You need sleep. Green Maggie, how you doing there, my dear? Hope you're well. Thank you ever so much for coming through. Thank you for liking my YouTube channel as well. I really appreciate anyone that's coming through, just listening. If you give us a thumbs up, all well and good. If you don't, it's not a problem. But thank you for the ones that do. Before we enter the UK roads, think safety, think first. Don't think of yourself. Think of the other innocent people and the other cars on the opposite side of the road, babies on board. The drivers, it's down to the driver, isn't it, to take control of the road, but innocent babies on board in the back of the car that haven't even had part of a life yet, haven't gone for the life of purgatory, don't deserve to be caught up in an instant. They don't deserve to get cut out the back of the vehicle or the car. So think safety, think first. Do not enter a car under sleep deprivation, under the influence of narcotics, under the influence of alcoholism. Try not to use your mobile phone. I know we all do it. Try not to smoke while you're driving. Try not to eat while you're driving. Try not to drink while you're driving. And definitely do not text. You're taking your eyes off the road. That 2 seconds that you take your eye off the road could hit the back of a vehicle. That vehicle in front of you could topple over on a A12 or motorway, or get hit by a lorry because you hit the back of it. That baby on the back of the board gets squashed in a car accident. Or I'm saying baby, but mother, father, son, daughter, it doesn't matter. Innocent drivers for stupidity. Check your engine oil, your water coolant tank, make sure it's topped up to maximum level, make sure you're MOT'd, insured, and have a driving license before entering. I know it sounds stupid, but it happens. I read it day in, day out. So I'll give these few steps of a bit, obvious steps that you need to of today. It's important that I influence the youth of today. It's important that we grow proclamation news together as a team. And the more people speak about PNG, the better, I believe, people think about before entering UK roads. Make sure you've got sufficient fuel on board to destination. Imagine you was going for an appointment at a doctor's, say, vital appointment or heart operation, or your newborn baby. Get enough sufficient fuel on board. There's a car incident, road closure. Your car breaks down because you didn't put sufficient fuel on board. And check for road congestion. Always check your route to destination. Check your centre mirror and wing mirror before acting in safe, sufficient directional choice, because there could be motorcyclists overtaking. Hell's Angels. I'll talk about Hell's Angels. There's a lot we know about Hell's Angels. Very abruptive. They're quite violent. But why is there Hell's Angels? This is a biker's Bible, Christian. Hell's Angel could be a Christian, but the incompetence of the driver on the car could cause the Hell's Angel to be provoked, angry. I mean, if I was on two wheels and a four-wheel car tried to mow me down because he wasn't paying attention on the road, because he's eating his crisps or can of Coke, he's swerving up and down the road, motorcyclist trying to overtake her, you're going to get annoyed. You might kick your wing mirror off. You'll think, why did that motorcycle just kick my wing mirror for no reason? It's because you took that 2 seconds to look down at your phone or drink your can of Coke. And that is exactly why. Some of us don't give us bikers a fault. I mean, I've been on UK roads. I know little mistakes I've done over the past. But when you let go of anger, you got to remember why that person could be angered behind you, or why you've been angered. That's exactly the same reason as that Hell's Angel's been angered. Exactly that. I do like the clothes, the lips, the nose, and the eyes. Thank you very much. I've got clothes on, shoes, shirt. Thank you so much, Green Meg. I appreciate it. We're going to look at the head of a bit of traffic this evening. Some of you might be on the back track on the way home from work. In the constituency of Essex, we have an incident in Colchester, 14th of July at 5 to 12 a.m. this afternoon. So it could still be in the way. Slow traffic in construction area. Yeah, it will be. Slow traffic on A133 St Andrew Avenue both ways at Waitrose in construction area. Lane closure is in place. That will still be there. When people come back from work, maybe after school club for kids, you can have traffic in that area. So if you check your road map, you'll see exactly where it is. You can go a detour in a different direction to avoid congestion. A12, traffic problem. Traffic coping well. Report of traffic problem on the A12 at junction 26 A1124 Essex Yeomanry Way 8 Ash Green Tollgate interchange. Traffic is coping well. Sensors aren't showing impact yet, but police are on the way to investigate. This was reported at 10 to 3, so this is definitely 1,000,000% going to be in your way of your journey. In Bedford, we're going to call this Greater London because Hatfield is known as Greater London because Queen Elizabeth I was the monarch in Hatfield House. It's where the monarchy, now it's Buckinghamshire Palace, but back then, in those years, it was Hatfield House. A421, slow traffic on A421 at A1 Great North Road, Black Cat roundabout at 5 to 3 p.m. 14th of July 2021, first reported. I just want to say I'm so overwhelmed with how I've been treated with the government just recently. With my university, I'm getting the backing of the government to do my degree. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that, I've kept methodical with this show. And, people coming through, same faces, they're actually acknowledging that it's not just, I'm not just reading off a script. I'm emphasising my credibilities. I'm on widespread jurisdiction, and most of my speech comes off the cuff. It's like the first 10 minutes is all my own speech. It's not on text on my screen. The only text on my screen is the news when I read it out, and I still emphasise my verdict like a political analyst. Well, it is a political analyst. No two ways about it. I'm a philosopher in my own verb. I'm a philosopher. I don't know if I'm not going to be a well-remembered one, but what I said at the time when I made my great philosophy segment was a great time and a great era to do it. Anti-dish establishment of terrorism will form upon the horizon if we don't stop this scrutiny to our unity. And that is exactly what Brexit says on the tin. Oven ready Brexit, that is that philosophy. So that is quite a powerful stance. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I'm just saying I'm not someone that's just made up. I've done the time and the integrity. Sammy commenced Love Island star Danny Dye's boyfriend sent to prison for conning pensions out of 34,000 The court heard that he would spend his victims' cash on holidays, clothes, alcohol, and cocaine. 34,000 That is a big whiplash to the backside. 34,000 worth of racketeering. The boyfriend of former Love Island star Danny Dyer has been jailed after defrauding 2 pensioners out of more than £34,000. Sammy Commence of Rayleigh, Essex, took the money for 2 elderly men between 2016 and 18 by claiming he would invest that money for them by placing horse racing bets on their behalf. But instead, Commence spent the money on his own debts and lifestyle, including on holidays, clothes, alcohol, and cocaine. 25-year-old pleaded guilty to 4 counts of fraud against Peter Martin of Havant, Hampshire, who died last year at the age of 91, totaling nearly 26,000, as well as 5th charge against 81 Peter Haynes from Okehampton, Devon, £7,927. Sentence commenced at Portsmouth Crown Court. Judge Timothy Mousley, the QC, said the fraud had been about abuse of trust, particularly against Mr. Martin, who considered the defendant to be his friend. He added, "He didn't show any remorse immediately, and I do not consider any remorse to be profound." Michael Mason, prosecuting, said Commence came into contact with his two victims while working in sales and administration. Mr. Clements had the little senior trader for a company called Ukraine Global Sports Limited, which would be placed bets on behalf of customers. After the company ceased trading, Clements pretended to work for another company called S&S Trading Limited and offered to continue making bets on behalf of his two victims. But instead, he spent the money on paying off his overdraft, a hotel stay in Ibiza, restaurant bills, and buying clothes, according to the Crown Prosecution Service (CPS). Mr. Mason said, "This is a very unpleasant fraud against two men who Clements deliberately targeted. He targeted them because they were old, vulnerable, and somewhat isolated. This wasn't something he migrated to. This was something he planned." In a statement read to court, Mr. Haynes, an aircraft engineer and RAF veteran, said, "All the savings I've accrued over my working life have been wiped out. My bank account shows zero. I was sick with worry." Mr. Mason said Clements had visited both his victims and had persuaded Mr. Martin to hand over his internet banking password and bank cards. That's shocking. He said of Mr. Martin, he ceded financial control to Mr. Clements. It's akin to the fox getting the keys to the chicken pen. A statement made by Mr. Martin said, "I've been left at times very stressed over money. Had given thousands to Sammy, who I thought was investing it for me. Clements acted despicably when he dumped his former client into believing that he had set up a new company with which they could safely invest their money." Craig Harris, defending Clements, said he was living above his means. He found himself surrounded by the preserved to be the glitz and glamour of the city and financial services workers, and they would take him out to the club in 195 nightclubs, as well regarded bar establishments. And when the time came for him to show willingness to engage this type of frivolity, he added he did. The court also heard that Clements would indulge in alcohol and cocaine. Mr. Harris said the defendant had saved up £10,000 to pay his victims and had been intending to train to become a quantity surveyor, having lost his job at a city trading because of legal proceedings against him. Simon Clark, CPS Wessex Senior Crown Prosecutor, said Clements acted despicably when he duped his former clients into believing that he had set up a company with which they could safely invest their money. As a result, Mr. Clements has been sentenced to prison for 3.5 years. Mr. Clements became a father with Danny Dyer following the birth of their son, Santiago, on January 23 this year. That is horrifically, it's immense. It's just distraught, leaving distraught. If that is your grandfather and someone's just robbed your grandfather 35,000 disgusting, despicable, horrific, horrendous. That's causing you to be revoked, to be angered. That's your grandfather's had £35,000 ripped off some lad going around his house saying to his friend to go and place bets on horses, but not really. He's paying off his own bills. He's paying for himself to go on holiday, taking your grandfather's money, taking your grandfather's rights, everything he's ever stood for, all that integrity. Some bloke that's pretending to be his mate, because really he's not. He's a nobody. He's nothing to him, is he? He's nothing. He's gone around there, made out his maybe's false negligence. Horrific. Short break, guys, before I carry on. We've got quite a few more segments to get through, so we're going to break it up in a few segments, have a few breaks. This is going back to yesterday's coronavirus briefing, so people want to know what's going on with the new briefing coming up. Live event is going to commence. I hope.
This country, I woke up this morning sad and rueful, but also filled with pride and hope and with thanks to Gareth Southgate and the whole England squad for the best campaign by any England team in any
transport
tournament
sector
that I can remember. They made history, they lifted our spirits, they brought joy to this country, and I know that they will continue to do so. And to those who have been directing racist abuse at some of the players, I say shame on you, and I hope you will crawl back under the rock from which you emerged. Because this entire team played like heroes, and I'm sure that this is just the beginning of their achievements. And I say, bring on Qatar next year, and let's also dare to start to hope that together with Ireland, our United Kingdom can host the World Cup in 2030. Turning now to step 4 of our roadmap. We've come to a stage in the pandemic when there is no easy answer and no obvious date for unlocking. We have cases rising significantly with more than 30,000 per day, and we can see what is happening across Europe as the Delta variant takes hold among our friends. We know we're going to see more hospitalizations and more deaths from COVID. But we also know that this wave was clearly foreseen by our scientists when we first set out that roadmap in February. And if anything, so far, we are in the middle range of their projections for infections and at the lower end of their projections for mortality. And we also know that if we were now to delay this 4th step, for instance, to September or later, then we would be reopening as the weather gets colder and as the virus acquires a greater natural advantage and when schools are back. And so we think now is the right moment to proceed when we have the natural firebreak of the school holidays in the next few days. And Chris and Patrick will set out in just a minute how we are meeting the 4 tests for step 4 in England. But it is absolutely vital that we proceed now with caution. And I cannot say this powerfully or emphatically enough. This pandemic is not over. This disease, coronavirus, continues to carry risks for you and your family. We cannot simply revert instantly from Monday the 19th of July to life as it was before COVID. We will stick to our plan to lift legal restrictions and to lift social distancing. But we expect and recommend that people wear a face covering in crowded and enclosed spaces where you come into contact with those you don't normally meet, such as on public transport. We're removing the government instruction to work from home where you can, but we don't expect that the whole country will return to their desks as one from Monday. And we're setting out guidance for business for a gradual return to work over the summer. And as a matter of social responsibility, we're urging nightclubs and other venues with large crowds to make use of the NHS COVID pass, which shows proof of vaccination, a recent negative test, or natural immunity as a means of entry. We're updating our guidance for the clinically extremely vulnerable on how they can keep themselves safe, and I generally urge everyone to keep thinking of others and to consider the risks.
Good pause, boys. There, we'll come back to him shortly. I'm going to break the show up a little bit. So we've got break. I'm going to do a segment, have a bit of a break, do a segment, have a bit of a break. I've got 5 segments to get through. I mean, as you know, talking, I can't talk for like 2 hours non-break. It does give you a horrific headache. As you listen to other presenters, they talk for like 10 minutes. They can have a break for 15 minutes. And all you got is adverts like talking, you know, and the Churchill, what's the name, insurance, all that kind of stuff comes on. I'm not going to do that, Joe. We're just going to pray, keep it politics. I mean, I could break it down and put all these adverts on like I did before. O2, I'm sponsored by O2, my network, and BT Broadband. You know, I could break it down and put them, you know, behind part of the show. But I don't get no benefits from publishing these companies. So I'm doing it for the ones that helped me get where I am today. And that's why I'm going to keep doing it at the moment. The Relaxation UK is because a kind friend helped me get my stationery, what I'm using today. So the least I can do is keep, as a gentleman would, keep promoting and projecting their business. And obviously PSS Alarms, them as well. It's a great company. Fire alarms, intruder alarms. I'll give all the details at the start of the show. So once I finish the show, you can always play it back to the beginning, get their contact number and give them a call. But I'm going to move forward. Thank you all for staying tuned. This is the online races to be banned from football matches, vows Boris Johnson. What is going on with NX-phobia, fascist, racism? I talk about it all the time, don't I? All this stupidity. Why is not ethos the word? Ethos is the word. It's, you know what it is? You know what it is? It's chemical imbalance of substances. People acting inappropriate, incompetent, and incomprehensible. If everyone had my mannerism, you know, we all had the nice mannerism that you hear on TV, you hear the royal family speak, you hear all the politicians speak. Very, very rarely hear any effing blinding inside Parliament. If you do, they get sanctioned from their seat and kicked out for so many days, maybe a month, 30 days sometimes. Anyway, Boris Johnson's promised to ban people guilty of sending race abuse to footballers from attending matches. Another thing is got to be dealt with is cyberbullying with all this fascist attacks, you know, fascism, all NX-phobia, violence over Facebook's got to stop. Really has. Even like sexual exploitation, anything to do with cyberbullying needs to be really regulated by, you know, just by the public. If you see something that's out of context, you need to report it to the right people. Ring the police saying that cyberbullying is going on this channel, on whoever's page, and report it. Simple as that. Because I don't condone it. I won't condone it. If someone sits on my Facebook, keep marking me off trying to bully me, it's discriminating. It's not fair. The Prime Minister said he would ensure the football banning order regime is changed to crack down on racism. Labour has been calling for the law to be changed after England players were subject to abuse on social media. But Sir Keir Starmer said the PM's promise to take action rings hollow after his previous refusal to condemn fans who booed players taking their knee. An online petition calling for the FA and the government to ban those who have carried out racist abuse to be banned for life has reached over 1 million signatures. Prime Minister said, what we are doing is taking practical steps so that if you are guilty of racist abuse online on football, then you will not be going to the match. No ifs, no buts, no exceptions, and no excuses. A football ban order is used to ban someone from attending matches for a set period of time and can be imposed for offences such as throwing missiles onto the playing area or onto the crowd and racist or indecent chanting at the match. As we know, the other day, someone was pointing a green taser in Schmeichel's face, an England spectator. Is he going to be banned for life? Because that could have been critical where he let a goal in. That could have been critical for his country and ruined our name as a athleticism, sportive team. Support, you know, all our supporters. Let's let the supporters back in the stadium. They've gone and done something ironic, as stupid as that. Terrific. Anyway, Downing Street says there'll be 12-week consultation of changing banning laws to include online abuse offences. The government wants these changes to happen as swiftly as possible, but it's not given a precise timetable. It comes a 37-year-old man was arrested in Greater Manchester Police over social media posts directed at England's football players after the Euro 2020 final. Culture wars. As a stormy Prime Minister questions, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer said, we could all see what's happened here. The government has been trying to stoke a culture war and they realised they're on the wrong side. And now they're hoping nobody has noticed. Why else would the Conservative MP boast that he's not watching his own team? Why else would another Conservative MP say that Marcus Rashford spends too much time playing politics when he's actually trying to feed children that government won't? And why would the Prime Minister refuse time and time again, even now, to condemn those who boo our players for standing up against racism? The Prime Minister said nobody defends booing the England side. He said that all MPs were united in admiration for the England team, adding, "I don't want to engage in political culture war of any kind. I want to get on with delivering for the people of this country." Sir Keir accused the PM of not showing racism the red card, but instead giving it green light and of indulging in the worst kind of gesture politics by putting on an England shirt over a shirt entire whilst not condemning those booing. Patel faced racism ahead of Euro 2020 tournament. Mr Johnson declined to condemn England fans who booed players taking a knee, saying fans should cheer them on, not boo. Home Secretary Priti Patel described the act as gesture politics. Asked in June if she would criticise fans who booed England players taking a knee, Home Secretary Priti Patel said that's a choice for them, quite frankly. On Monday, the Home Secretary tweeted that she was disgusted by the online abuse directed at some England players after the team lost to Italy penalties on Sunday's England's Euro 2020 final. England footballer Tyrone Mings replied that she had stoked the fire through her stance and taken knees. Sir Keir challenged the Prime Minister on the Home Secretary's stance, saying, "He Mings is right, isn't he?" Mr Johnson defended the Home Secretary and said Miss Patel had faced racism and prejudice all her career. Of what kind? That he could, in the kind that he can never imagine. Ian Blackford. This to Ian Blackford. If it loads. If it loads, my dears, should be. Just waiting for Blackford to load. It's not going to load. It's not going to load. Oh. I think it is.
You know, still no contrition. Still no apology. And Mr. Speaker, the truth is, the Tory party doesn't sanction those who publish that kind of racist content. They promote them to be Prime Minister. The legacy of this Prime Minister's dog whistling has followed him into 10 Downing Street, and it is now at the heart of this Tory government. As the England international Tyrone Mings has so powerfully stated, this government doesn't get to stoke the fires of racism and pretend to be disgusted when it happens. They don't get to condemn the racism of others, but deny that the racism that they have even provoked. In March, this UK government's own report on racism, the Sewell report, said that there was no systemic problem in the UK. I think the England men's football team would beg to differ. After the shocking racism on show over the last week, does the Prime Minister still stand by his government's belief that systemic racism is not a problem that exists in the United Kingdom?
Mr. Speaker, I do think that racism is a problem in the United Kingdom, and I believe it needs to be tackled and it needs to be stamped out with some of the means that I've described this morning. But when he attacks our party, my party, Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid he's got the wrong target. This is a party that has not only had the first ever Muslim Secretary of State for Health, now one former Chancellor, of course, but has had 2 female Prime Ministers, the most diverse cabinet in the history of this country, the most diverse government in the history of this country. We are the party. If you are a young person growing up in a black or ethnic minority group in this country, we are the party that represent hope and opportunity. That is the reality about the Conservative Party today.
He's defending his case. There you had it. He's defending his case. He's right. It is Muslim. There's a lot of Arabic people in the BAME, black, Asian, minority, ethnic, in the Conservative Party. Same as Labour. Labour was and what's it called? Anti-Semitism towards the Jews. You know, you got Sir Keir Starmer spitting his riff towards for being fascist. Priti Patel, Sergeant Javid, they're forgetting. You know, some arguments they have, they contradict themselves because they don't look further than their nose. It's like when both argue with each other, they can try and put each other down. You support Tottenham, I support Arsenal. You can put the reds down because I don't like it, and I don't like the yellows. Simple as that. Party politics. It's all about party politics. What side of the fence you sit? Conservatives, it's been going for generations and generations, as we know. Anyway, Conservative MP Steve Baker urges party to back players taking a knee. Conservative MP needs to change their attitudes and support footballers who take a knee. A senior figure on the right of the party has said Steve Baker told BBC players were not calling to defund the police or being anti-capitalist. They are saying we suffer racism. Last month, Home Secretary Priti Patel dismissed taking the knee as a gesture of politics. Other Tories have criticised players for making the protest before games. On the Euro 2020 tournament, Education Minister Gillian Keegan said Black Lives Matter campaign is really about defunding the police and the overthrow of capitalism. And taking a knee was creating division. Asked in June if she would criticise fans who booed England players taking a knee, Priti Patel said that's a choice for them, quite frankly. Boris Johnson has said he wants fans to cheer their team, but has not explicitly condemned fans who booed, prompting criticism from Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer. On Monday, Home Secretary tweeted that she was disgusted by the online abuse directed at some England players after the team lost to Italy on penalties on Sunday. England footballer Tyrone Mings replied that she stoked the fire through her stance on taking a knee. Responding to Mings, Conservative MP Mr Johnny Mercier said, "The painful truth is that a guy is completely right." He added he was very uncomfortable with the position we Conservatives are needlessly forcing ourselves into. Steve Baker, who chaired the pro-Brexit European Research Group of Tory MPs, said the controversy should serve as a wake-up call to the Conservative Party over how it's seen to the rest of the country. Mr Baker said he would not take a knee himself as its connection to BLM means its symbolism was subject to multiple competing interpretations, not anti-capitalist. But he added he thought footballers were motivated by a desire to express their solidarity with those who suffer racism. We just have to get alongside those players who are taking a knee and understand they're not saying defund the police. They're not anti-capitalist, he told BBC Radio 4 Today programme. Labour will also urge the government to take stronger against racist abuse on social media at a Commons debate. I mean, they've got to be careful what they defend, haven't they? Because, you know, everyone that gets provoked, but they don't want to, they don't want to stoke the fire and get repercussions of, you know, it could be a major riot inside a football stadium. So you've got to be careful. You can get provoked. If you're dark skinned and you get racist attack, I know it's sickening to say sometimes you've got to take it on the chin. It's disgusting how the way they get treated, believe me. But at the same time, you don't stoke the fire. Sometimes you've got to walk away and just shrug your shoulder. You know, that's what they say. That's basically what politics is suggesting. Because yeah, if you get provoked and cause something that could cause a scene, it could backfire. The party wants those sanctions for executives at companies that fail to enforce rules on online hate and tweaks to legislation to allow courts to ban fans and from football games for posting abuse online. More than 1 million people have signed an online petition calling for tougher rules and ban abusers for attending games. The government says its online safety bill would do more to force social media companies to act on abuse online. American footballer Colin Kaepernick said, kneeling during a pre-game national anthem in the NFL in 2016 in protest at police violence against African Americans. Many figures in sport started taking a knee last year when Black Lives Matter movement gained momentum in the wake of the murder of George Floyd by a police officer in the US. BLM's gone on for many years. It wasn't because George Floyd why it was set up. It's before that a young lad, age I think he's about 6, got killed on his driveway. Vaccine septic dad fighting COVID for his life wants to turn back time. Matthew Keenan has urged people to get the jabs. Matthew's been fighting for his life in hospital in Bradford. A vaccine septic father says he now wishes he could turn back time. Now he's fighting for his life after contracting COVID. The 4-year-old Matthew Keenan is being treated by medics after being rushed to hospital. With Matthew's permission, Dr. Leanne Cheney, a respiratory consultant, issued a warning on social media. She tweeted, "Matthew has agreed for me to share his story. 34, footy coach and dad, self-confessed vaccine septic until he caught COVID. If he could turn back time, he would. Our sickest patients are unvaccinated and under 40. Matthew is fighting for his life. Save yours. Get vaccinated. Get a jab." That's exactly what I was just about to get into before I get into the next paragraph. Don't be obnoxious. Don't be in a private and think, conspiracy theorists are right, because this is what happens. People get above themselves and then they'll get in contact with COVID and be in life-threatening condition on these breathing machines could be for the rest of their life. Some people can end up with brain damage through suffering to breathe because of COVID. It's important. It is really important that you get a vaccination. 2/3 of adults in the UK are estimated to have received both doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Latest figures show a total of 35,155,767 second doses have now been delivered since the vaccination rollout began in December last year. That is equivalent of 66.7% of all people 18 and over. Of the 4 nations of the UK, Wales is the highest proportion of adults fully vaccinated, with 73.8% estimated to have reached both jabs. 1,861,700 second doses. England is next. England is next on 66.5%. 29,429,018 second doses, followed by Scotland 65.7%, 2,914,914 second doses. Northern Ireland 65.4%, 950,145 second doses. The latest figures, which have been published in UK health agencies, also show that estimated 87.4% of UK adults have now received the first dose of the vaccine. Though the rate of the vaccinations has been shown in recent weeks, Wales again leads the other nation with 90.3% of adults estimated to have had their first jab, ahead of Scotland 89%. England 87.3% and Northern Ireland 81.7%. Recent analysis by Public Health England suggest one dose of either of the Oxford AstraZeneca or Pfizer BioNTech vaccine reduce the risk of symptomatic disease with the Delta variant of coronavirus by approximately 35% and hospital cases by 80%. With a second dose boost protection by approximately 79% against symptomatic disease and 96% against having to go to hospital. Is it worth taking risk in life? Ease to their own devices. I think I've had mine. I don't think it's safe to myself. I think it's the safety of others as well. I'm not just selfish. I don't just want to survive. I want everyone else to survive around me as well. So I went and got mine done because I'm not being selfish, not being pig-headed. I went and got it done for the purpose of humanity, to keep moving. Life is like a bicycle. You've got to keep moving. If they make it mandatory, you've got to do it anyway. So just get it done. They're talking about getting it mandatory so many times. I don't know if they will or not because of certain issues, health issues, whatnot. But I don't know the ins and outs of a duck's back banana.
We'll keep our tough border policy, including quarantine for those arriving from red list countries, and we will keep the test, trace and isolate system in place. Every week that goes by, we're getting hundreds of thousands more jabs into arms, and our delay to the roadmap that we announced last month has enabled us to get 7 million more jabs in the last 4 weeks alone. By next Monday, 2/3 of adults will have received a second dose, and every adult will have been offered a first dose. And it is the single most crucial thing now that you get that jab. A jab that can protect you and your family and allow you, for instance, to go on holiday. And it is, of course, only thanks to the vaccine program that we are able to take these cautious steps now. But to take these steps, we must be cautious and we must be vaccinated. So please, get that jab. Thanks very much. I'm now going to pass to Chris to do the slides.
Thank you, Prime Minister. First slide, please. As people will recall, there were 4 roadmap tests, and I'm going to go through each of them in turn. The first of them was that the vaccine deployment programme continues successfully. And I think people are very aware of the fact that this is going very well. The NHS has rolled this out in a magnificent way, supported by volunteers, and people have come in very large numbers, with the majority of every age group in adulthood now having had their first vaccination, and the great majority of the older age groups having both first and second vaccinations. Next slide, please. The second test was that evidence shows the vaccines are sufficiently effective in reducing hospitalizations and deaths in those vaccinated. And we've got real-life data from the UK, which actually shows for the Delta variant, which is the one which is currently dominant, we have considerable confidence that 1 dose reduces by a reasonable margin, roughly a third, the chance of getting asymptomatic infection, but 2 doses reduce that very substantially further to somewhere between 78 and 80% reduction. These are estimates. And next slide, please. If we move on to people having hospitalization and deaths, these vaccines are substantially more effective than they are even against symptomatic disease. So 1 dose, a 69 to 88% reduction, and 2 doses, over 90% reduction in the chance of hospitalization. Not 100%, but these are very highly effective vaccines. Next slide, please. When it comes to the third test, infection rates do not risk a surge in hospitalizations, which would put unsustainable pressure on the NHS. Inevitably, we have to be more cautious in our interpretation of the data. At this point in time, as you can see from this slide, the rates of hospitalizations, whilst not trivial and rising, so over 2,700 people are in hospital with COVID at the moment, is way below both the first bit and the second bit of the peak, so autumn and spring of this year, winter this year, and spring of last year. However, next slide, please. If we look at the cases, admissions, and deaths over time, we have to be aware of the fact that the way epidemics work is they double. Now, in the case of cases, the autumn wave, which is in orange here, and the current wave are going at very similar rates to what they did to the autumn wave last year. If we then look at admissions, and these are not on exactly the same scale, just a technical point, but what you can see is that whilst the cases are following almost an identical track to the previous wave, the admissions are going significantly below that, but they are still rising at a slower exponential rate. And then the third thing is the mortality rate, death rate, fortunately at this point in time, much lower than it was previously, but again, this is rising. So with all of these, the key question is at what point does the epidemic curve come to an end and turn over and the rates start to go down? And there cannot be certainty about this, so therefore we cannot be quite as confident on this test as the others. But at this point, modelling data and other data would imply that if we go slowly with the next stage of the roadmap, the expectation is this will not reach the point where it is putting unsustainable pressure on the NHS. But to repeat the Prime Minister's points, there is an expectation, unfortunately, that the number of cases going to hospital will go up and the number of deaths will go up in the current wave. Next slide, please. The final test is our assessment is that the risks are not fundamentally changed by a new variant of concern. And the Delta variant is now the dominant variant in the UK. So this is now the normal variant in the UK. So that's not a variant of concern anymore, which it was when we first talked about it in one of these press conferences. Looking at the other variants of concern in the UK, the numbers are low and are not rising. And in fact, in several cases are in fact shrinking at this point in time. So we do not think at this point that there is any reason to think any current variants of concern are going to change the analysis that's been made. So therefore, 3 tests passed, I think, fairly clearly. 1 test with the caution that I put in terms of the data. I just, before I finish, wanted to just summarize where I think some of the scientific and medical opinion is in a sense, in support of what the Prime Minister has just said. There are 3 areas where there is really very overwhelming wide agreement between scientific and medical opinion, and there's 1 area where opinions are more mixed. There is very wide agreement, and was very wide agreement, that the 4-week delay that we have just had to the roadmap was going to have a significant impact on reducing the amount of hospitalizations and deaths, and that opinion has not changed. So very strong view that that particular period of delay was an extremely important thing to do to reduce deaths, to reduce cases, and to reduce pressure on the NHS. Secondly, there is extremely wide agreement that whenever we go through the next step, there is going to be what's called an exit wave. There will be a wave associated with that. And that the slower we take it, the fewer the people will have COVID, the smaller the peak will be, and the smaller the number of people who go into hospital and die. So going very slowly through this step is really essential. And this, again, is an overwhelming view of the scientific people who've looked at this and of the medical profession. There was a letter on this by all the Royal Colleges of Medicine, for example, over the weekend. And so this is an overwhelming view. We should go slowly and steadily and cautiously, as the Prime Minister has laid out. There is less agreement about what is an ideal date to make a move. And the reason for that is that there is no such thing as an ideal date. All the possible dates have downsides. And as the Prime Minister has said, we could go at this point in time, we go at a point when there are still some people being vaccinated, but we are not going at a point when schools are just coming back, and we're not going to the point where we're going into autumn and winter. And the modelling studies that have been done on this largely show that all dates essentially tend to lead to broadly similar outcomes. Different models come to very slightly different conclusions, but there is no clear evidence in comparison to the previous occasion when a delay was clearly going to make a difference. There is no clear evidence that a delay now is going to make a difference. What is going to make a difference is going slowly. And the final thing.
Professor Chris Whitty. As you know, he had a bit of a provocation course. 2 guys approached him. I'm not sure if it's Covent Garden, I can't remember what it was, where they approached him, got him around the scruff of the neck. Not nice, is it? The guy overlooking the country as a whole. Greater Anglia and Mantry traffic update. Station roads shut and trains delayed after Lloyd breaks railway crossing barriers. A number of trains are impacted. The accident happened at Mantry railway station. The road in Mantry has been shut after an incident damaged railway barriers at level crossing this afternoon. Station Road is currently shut in Northwood, Essex because of the accident. Greater Anglia has also confirmed that some train services have been impacted by the incident. Essex Travel News tweeted, Lawford, accident at level crossing Station Road has been closed due to barrier damage. Network Rail Anglia tweeted, a lorry has hit the level crossing barriers at Mantry. Trains are running but need to be cautioned through this area, causing delays between London and Norwich. They added, we're carrying out work to replace the barrier. The road closure will be in place during this time. On Greater Anglia website, trains to Norwich that began at London Stansted Airport are being terminated early or diverted. A Greater Anglia spokesperson said, at 20 to 3 p.m, Stansted Airport to Norwich due at 4:39 will be started from Cambridge. It will no longer call at Stansted Airport or the End or Whistleford Parkway. This is due to a fault with barriers at level crossing. Other trains are expected to be impacted. Motorists are advised to seek alternative route if they need to head down to Station Road. If you are joining us, roads around Station Road in Mantry and Greater Anglia Line itself are being affected following an incident. Lorry crashed into level crossing barriers, forcing a repair. If any change occurred to circumstances, we'll let you know on this live blog on Essex Live. Traffic building. On the road, traffic is building in the lead up to level crossing. There are long queues from level crossing back to junction between Station Road and Burgard Road. Delays are set to continue until works are complete. If you're in that area, Mantry, that is your reason. That's why you need to plan your destination, plan your route, avoid congestion. You're going to get home, done a hard shift. If you're listening, if you want to share it, I'll appreciate it, given the valuable cognitive skills, news, directions. Avoid congestions at all costs. Could cause further delays, could cause further pile-ups, could cause a lot of hassle. And a lot of unnecessary work for police to keep signalling traffic to go back the route they come. Anyway, I just want to say thank you, God bless, take care, one love. Think safety, think first. Tomorrow, do more for God tomorrow than you did today. Say hallelujah, say amen. Be kind to your neighbour. Take care, one love, God bless, and speak soon.